the carbon in the atmosphere, and she talked earlier about
Yes.
the greenhouse gases and stuff. Like where do you draw the line with cutting and all that stuff with using trees to
Well, the problem is, right, is that ultimately there's some exceptions. But ultimately, most forests are headed towards a major disturbance event at some point, right? So you can have a forest that's storing massive amounts of carbon, and then all you need is one fire, and suddenly it's now an emitter, not a sink. So the applied research shows that with intensive management, you can actually store more carbon through a stand that you're managing for carbon storage versus, right? Like for example, you can't use a protected area for a carbon credit because of the risk, right? There's a number of reasons, but part of the reason is the risk. Like if you're not actively managing a park, at some point the whole thing could burn, right? And then you've actually gone from a carbon sink to a carbon emitter, right? So, but if you manage for your growing stock and manage for vigor and growth and multi-ages, you can actually store carbon at very high levels for theoretically indefinitely. Now there's always risk. Like these big carbon projects, they actually have insurance tied to them so that they can recover if they have a major disturbance that they didn't plan for.
and can you do that with planting forests?
You can do it with planted forests, but you can't move a short rotation timber management forest into a carbon project because they just don't store enough carbon. The too short rotation. Like the industry right now, they're moving to 30, even in New Brunswick, like 30, 35-year rotations. Like so every 30 to 35 years, they're planning on clear cutting. Right now, they're still obsessed with boreal trees, like white spruce is all the obsession right now. But at some point, like Loic Dorangeville did at CWF 2 weeks ago, he's like, you might want to start thinking about some different species. Wasn't well received. Oh, they're like, you look at the investment in tree improvement, right? They've got hundreds of millions of dollars invested in growing white spruce, right? But it's a boreal tree. So what does white spruce look like in New Brunswick in 2080, 2100? I'm not planting white spruce on my woodlot. Even if it's free, that's part of the problem, right? We get subsidized, so we plant stuff that doesn't make sense. Like I'm not planting white spruce in my woodlot.
That's worrisome.
It is.
Sure it is. It's a boreal tree.
Pine trees is 90, white spruce 90%.
It's a boreal tree. It's not adapted to heat. It's not adapted to moisture stress. Like all spruces are adapted to cool to cold, humid climates. And the spruce with the widest genetic diversity on the planet is actually Norway spruce. Like it grows everywhere from the Arctic Circle to the Mediterranean to the Bering Sea, mountains. Like Norway spruce has huge genetic diversity, right? But it's still a spruce tree. You don't find Norway spruce growing at low elevation in Italy, right? You find pine trees and oak trees and various things, right? So, yeah, like Kingsclear is a good example, right? They're investing huge money in ramping up Kingsclear because the province is planning on moving to, like, what are they saying now? 40% plantation on Crown land now is the current plan. Like even 25 years ago, it was at 14% and they were talking about 20. Now they're talking 38. Part of the reason why they're talking increasing the intensive plantation is so they increase the P&As, right? So they're trying to balance out wood production with increasing conservation forest. Like the extreme example is New Zealand. Like New Zealand's crown forest is half P&A and half plantation. Yeah, so 50% of the public forest in New Zealand is protected and 50% of it is intensively growing pine plantations, right? So that's kind of where our current DNR is thinking, but the species they're planting is not adapted to the emerging climate. It just isn't. So, the answer they keep giving, well, in 30 years, it'll be coming off. But I keep asking, so what's your plan beyond white spruce? They don't have one. Like what happens beyond white spruce? They can probably get away with white spruce for the next 30 years, right? 30 to 40 years, but that's a good example of what happens to white spruce. And that's a dominant, healthy tree on a rich site. Like that tree's died of heat stress, likely.
Which we're probably going to see.
The beetle probably killed it, but the reason it killed it is heat stress.